Hey, what is going on, everybody? Hopefully, you're having a great Tuesday. It's a little weird. This week's a little bit weird because I feel like Monday was just kind of a forgotten day, right? In the sense, when it comes to work related things. And so it's like weird getting your week started on Tuesday. But I'm so excited for today's podcast. We're going to be talking about real estate, which is always a fun subject to talk about. But we're going to be talking about a very specific part of the real estate process that especially us millennials might not understand, might not know that this is even part of the process. So it's going to be a really great opportunity to get some inside information, right? To know what's going on, what to expect, because often not, millennials are, maybe getting their first house, buying their first house for the first time. And so, like I said, this process isn't talked about, but it can make or break a real estate process or a real estate deal. So you got to know this stuff. So I'm really excited about that. But before we get into all of that, if you guys are going to be jumping on the live, please make sure you comment who you are, where you're from. If you have a question today for our guest, just pop it in the comment section. I'll pop it up there. We'll try to answer as best as we can on air. If it's too complex, maybe that's a opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation with our special guest today. But without further ado, I'm going to bring her up. She could tell us a little bit about her business, what she does, and then we're just going to ask some questions so that you can understand the process a little bit better. So, anyways, guys, without further ado, I'm bringing up my friend Lelsey Hurst. Did I say your last name right? I always pronounce last names incorrectly. So,
yes.
I awesome.
About my dog in the background. He is barking. Just give me 1 second, Billy. My apologies.
Yeah, no problem.
Very busy agents. So yes, always have something going on. So
yes, I love it.
My apologies. Yes.
No, you're fine. My dog, I'm surprised, isn't barking like crazy. So it happens. That's the joys of doing a live video. You never know what you're going to run into.
It's very true. And here I am moving around. My apologies.
No, that I was going to say, it's, most people don't get the chance to have their dogs at their office. So,
yes. Me on a regular basis, and unfortunately he barks sometimes, so
it's all good. I'm a dog lover myself, so we're all good to go there. But now that everybody knows that you have a dog, tell us a little bit about you, where the business that you own, the whole 9 yards. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I bought this company, a real estate title insurance company, 2 years ago from the previous owner. He opened the company in 2006. So the company is quite a few years old at this point, but as most people know, you never get the, oh, I've heard of that. I've heard of that company. I always get the, I don't know what your company does. What do you because no one understands title insurance. Nobody knows what we do, even though obviously we're a very integral part of the real estate process. So yes, like I said, I bought the company 2 years ago. I'm about 2.5 years in, and it is a real estate, commercial and residential title insurance company.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you said, you hit the nail on the head. No one knows. I would say 80% of the population probably doesn't know what you guys do, right? And so it is interesting. But where are you based out of? You're based out of Lancaster, correct?
Yes, I am based out of Lancaster. That's where my home office is. And then I also have an office in Harrisburg. So I serve primarily in this market. A lot of what I'm doing is in the Harrisburg, Dauphin, Cumberland County area. But obviously I do Lancaster, York, Lebanon, Chester. I'm able to service the entire state because with most licenses, you're licensed in the state. So I'm, that's where my title insurance looking to expand into other states because you can have dual state licensing. But right now I just service Pennsylvania.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's get into it, right? Yeah. Let's rip the Band-Aid right off and let's just say, what is the role of a title agent? Like, explain before we get into the process. Like, I guess maybe that might interplay with what you do, but like, For everybody that's watching that doesn't know what a title agent is, like what is that?
What is a title insurance agent? We are the ones that the biggest thing and where you'll see us the most is obviously at the settlement table. So we're the ones that will sit down with you, explain all of the loan documents whenever you are at the table ready to buy your house. But behind the scenes, what we do is we make sure that whenever you are at the settlement table, you're actually buying a property that is free and clear is like terminology, free and clear of any encumbrances to that property, whether it's a mortgage that the seller has out on the property, whether it's a municipal lien from the township, whether it is you know, let's say the seller had work done on their house and they didn't pay their contractor. Well, the contractor could have put a lien against the house. And so we get all of that cleared up for you so that whenever you go to buy the house, it is completely clear and free of anything. And to expand on that, you can also guarantee that you're going to be buying a property that nobody in the future can put liens against the property that are not in your name.
Oh, wow.
Which is a lot of people don't necessarily understand that portion of it, but that would be the expanded policy on title insurance. So you can do both. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a lot. And so like you said, you're there for the good times. I feel like,
Yeah.
like in the sense of like when everything runs smoothly, like you're the end of the process, really, right? Like you're like, hey, everything looks good, you're free and clear, you're good to go. But like
Yep.
obviously, like you said, there are some instances where that isn't the case. So what are like the most common things you see that hold up, like, I know you touched on them a little bit, but maybe like in Pennsylvania, like what are some common things, reoccurring things that you see that hold up that title process?
Yeah. Obviously, the biggest thing that can hold up a title process is if the seller isn't willing to cooperate with a title agent in order to give us the correct authorizations to pull the payoffs or the payoffs on the judgments, or because we have to have authorization from sellers in order to obtain those because it's obviously private information. And so that can be, so I get the question a lot of, well, how quickly can you close this? How quickly can we get to the settlement table? And my rule of thumb is I can do it within 7 to 10 business days if there's, pending everything else. But if it's not a clean title and if the seller isn't willing to work with me, then I can't do that. So I'm at the mercy most days of other people. Whether that's, if there's lending involved, it's how quickly the lending can get things done, et cetera, et cetera. But on my side of things, the biggest thing that holds things up are honestly those people that are involved. Because there's some, mortgage companies that won't get back to me, won't get payoffs to me as quickly as I need them, or, you name it. I'm really at the mercy of other people. Yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely a major, waiting on other people can definitely be such a downer, and
Yeah.
especially because like your work doesn't really start until like we're getting closer to the finish. So where do you, like, I guess that's a good question because
Yeah.
people might not know this, right? Like
Yeah.
so I'm buying a house,
Yep.
right? And where do you come in as
Mm.
the title agent, like the title person? Like where do you fit into the process?
Yeah. Typically Mondays are my busiest days of the weeks, or in this case, Tuesday. Because I get involved as soon as an agreement of sale is signed on a house. And
Okay.
people are looking at houses on the weekends. Agreement of sales are signed on the weekends in most cases. And so then the realtor will send it to me typically on Monday or Tuesday so that I can get started on doing the title search to find out exactly what is against that property that I need to clean up.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So I get
So
really, I get started, I get involved from the pretty much at contract signing, which is the beginning. Um, post looking at houses.
Yeah. 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 I mean, and like you said, that's so important because like you are so dependent on other people's information getting to you in a timely manner. So like getting involved early is really, really important,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. 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 And knock on wood, I've never had a settlement like waiting on me. I've never had a situation where they're waiting on me to get a payoff or to do this or do that. Sometimes it's the day of, but knock on wood, I've never had any settlement where I'm holding it up.
Yeah. So this show is mainly about millennials, helping millennials, and we talked right before we got on how you've kind of positioned your business specifically. And I'm the same way. Like I have an app that people can look at all their financial stuff, right? Like they go to one place. It's really easy. Um, we don't want to have as millennials, we don't want to have to jump through a bunch of hoops to get the information we need, right? We're so used to Googling something and instantly getting the answer. So talk a little bit about how you've positioned yourself in the millennial market, just because
Mhm.
we don't know a lot about these types of things. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, as in most industries, everything started on paper. So in title insurance, all of those forms that we would need filled out, whether it's the contact information form, so that we can get in contact with the seller or the buyer, or the mortgage authorization form, so that I can order your mortgage, that was all done via paper. So we would get a contract. We would literally mail you a piece of paper. You would hand fill it out, and then you would return it back to us in the return envelope. I've built my company to a spot where nothing is on paper anymore, and I don't print anything until I actually need to print your loan documents for settlement. So everything is cloud-based and online forms. So as soon as I get a contract, I send out online forms to the realtors so that they can fill out all of the contact information for the buyers and the sellers, as well as, and then they just literally hit the submit button, and it gets emailed right back to me with all of the information. And then I send out, the mortgage authorization form to the, sellers, so that they can just sign it on their phones. My goal is to make it as easy as possible for everyone, because otherwise it just, honestly, things take forever if it's not easy, for people these days, because we all expect instant gratification. Everything needs to be instant in today's day and age. And so I try and make it as easy and seamless as possible. And the easiest way that I have found in the title world is to just do online forms, that people can do either from their computers or their phones. Yeah.
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 No, I love that. I love that. Just keeping it easy, because it is, people don't realize like how exciting buying a home is, but how incredibly stressful
Hmm.
buying a home is, right? And the last thing you want to do is you've gotten the offer accepted and stuff like that, and then run into a situation where the title is not good,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
People that you're not working with. And that's why it's so important to choose a company, or whether that's a realtor or a lender, or in my case, the title insurance agent that you're comfortable with. And, I'm always educating people on that Pennsylvania buyers have the choice on their title insurance agents, on who they choose for title. And it's super important because, yes, we are very behind the scenes per se, but we are a very integral part of your process. And if you're not comfortable, and I mean, this is a great example. Right before I jumped on this podcast with you, I was on the phone with a seller in this situation, and she's super nervous and has all these questions. And, just talking her through that, and not being afraid to answer the questions that she has, and giving her the time and the space that she needs to talk about, how hard it is to sell her house. And, it's important to pick somebody who actually cares and wants to listen and help you work through all of those questions. Because like you said, most people don't know what all goes into buying a house, and there's lots of questions, and by all means ask away.
yeah,
That's what,
yeah,
yeah.
I love it. And so I guess another question I have is, because you just brought it up, and it was going to be something I was going to bring up. So you brought up in Pennsylvania, you have the option. The option is to choose who you
Mhm.
want to work as your title. And then in some states, is it the opposite? Is that how it works? And um, in like I know, like, if you're choosing here, like, obviously I would assume that most just real estate agents say, hey, just use my title person. But like, I think, like, you're also saying, like, hey, I want to educate just the masses. So like, if they wanted, like, if they want to choose me, like, is that how it kind of works? Like, you get what I'm saying there? Does that
Yeah.
question make
No,
sense?
yeah, most realtors, actually, I take that back. Not most realtors, but quite a few realtors will push you toward one title company or another. And that's because typically there's an incentive in it for them. And so you just want to be very cautious and ask your realtor if they are getting any incentive for going with that title company, or would they allow you to shop around a little bit?
Oh, wow.
Because most realtors, and it's because when you're going to buy a house, people aren't thinking about title insurance, and so they just are like, sure, we'll go with whatever title company our realtor suggests, which typically is a good suggestion, but maybe that title insurance company doesn't necessarily fit their needs as a buyer. And so asking your realtor, hey, do you mind if I shop around a little, and just calling title insurance companies and talking to them and seeing which one you're comfortable with, just like you did when it came to your realtor. You shopped around, you called realtors, you interviewed them, and it's the same on the title side. Um, yeah.
See, and again, I'm learning something new, and I'm in finance, and it's just like there's so many layers of finance that people just don't understand this, that
Yeah.
it's just there's so many different things that you need to be cognizant about. And that's really important, to have your real estate agent disclose whether or not they're getting some type of incentive for providing that title insurance for you,
Yeah.
is something I didn't even know about. So we're all learning something new today. So
Yeah, absolutely. And to answer your other question, Billy, each state is very different and so, to be totally honest, I'm not sure which states are buyer
yeah.
optional. The thing that I do know is that there are states that are it's called attorney driven, where only attorneys are allowed to issue title insurance. Pennsylvania is not. So they're very different. So even if you're working with an attorney to do, draw up your note and mortgage, or, whatever it is, whether or not, if you're working with an attorney, you can still choose your title agent in Pennsylvania. You don't have to use that attorney for title insurance. And in fact, I will say that sometimes it's really you want the differentiation,
Yep.
because we only do title insurance. And so that's all we know. And that's what our area of expertise is. Um, and and don't get me wrong, I know of a lot of attorneys that are really good at what they do when it comes to title insurance, but those that are just focused on title insurance, I mean, that's all we do. And
Yeah.
so that's our area of expertise.
Yeah, no, it's just like if you went to a doctor, right? I use this analogy a lot. It's like I could go to a general surgeon and he
Mhm.
could probably do a heart surgery on me. He could probably figure it out, right?
Yep.
But I'm going to feel a lot more confident going to the cardiologist who works
Correct.
on hearts every day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And knows how they pump, knows like the ins and outs. If something
Yeah.
happens, he can instantly do something about it. So that's kind of like, yes, I totally agree with you. Like, there's a lot of things that I do as a financial advisor, can do, but I choose not to do, right?
Mhm.
Like, because I'm not the expert in that area. I have an expert that handles that every day. So I love that answer.
Yeah.
Um,
And this is just another perfect example in regards to that. I actually had to refer the other way, where I was asked to do a deed prep for a seller, because as title agents, we're also able to do deed changes. And it was a situation where I didn't necessarily feel comfortable, because it was an executor of an estate with two children plus the ex-wife, and it was just a very complicated deed change. And so I just referred it back to the attorney, because they're more experienced in those types of situations than us as title insurance agents are, because we don't necessarily run into that super often. And so, in that situation, I was like, you know what? I'm going to stay in my lane. And this is what I do really well. And I'm just going to refer this back.
yeah.
Um, no hard feelings to the realtor, and she was great about it, so.
Yeah, because ultimately it comes down to what's best for the client. What are we doing to make sure that the
I
client is
feel like I would
having the
client
best
best.
experience,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No, this is all, like I said, all super interesting. I actually just had a comment, Jacob, who is a mortgage lender in Alabama. Actually, he's a good
Okay.
friend of mine.
Hi, Jake.
But you deal with mortgage lenders, so
Oh,
in the whole nine, so you know that world pretty well.
oh yeah.
So I guess before we kind of get into a couple of personal questions before we jump off here today.
Uh-huh.
So if you were to, so since we can in Pennsylvania, right? We're talking strictly Pennsylvania right now.
Mhm.
Yep, he said, "Yep, roll tie roll." Um, but since we're talking strictly about Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah.
If you're in another state, you're watching this, right? Obviously, get with somebody in your state to figure out what specific laws and stuff like that they have there. But just to make it easy, if you are shopping, right? If your real estate agent says, "Hey, use this title person," right? What are some things that, as millennials, as people in general that don't have a lot of knowledge when it comes to titles, what
Mhm.
are some things that we could arm ourselves to be like, all right, this is what I'm looking for, or like, what are some flat red flags that I need to look for, or like, how do I go about choosing the right person for me? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of times I advise people obviously to ask, okay, well, how responsive are you? Because you want your realtor to be responsive, because if a house comes on the market and it's going, you see it and you're like, oh man, I really like that house, I want to go look at it today, so hopefully I can get my offer in. You want your realtor to be super responsive. It's the same thing on the title side. Like, you want your title insurance agent to be responsive. And I was actually in a meeting with a lender right before this morning, and he was like, well, how do you market yourself? What's your biggest marketing strategy? And I just simply tell people I absolutely love what I do, and therefore that transfers into, I will respond to you as quickly as I can. You can call me. Here's my personal cell phone number, because I want to educate you. I want to help you through the process. And whether that's a realtor or a lender or a borrower, I get phone calls all the time of, you know I can't say all the time, but I do get quite a few phone calls when it comes to, you know, can you give me a quote on this property? And I actually get back to people. Do you know what I mean? To where I've received those phone calls and they're like, yeah, we called like 3 or 4 other title agents and they never returned our phone call. And I don't understand that. Like, I will never understand that concept. But and I think that's the biggest thing, is like, just I actually I actually care about what I do and I love what I do, and therefore that turns into quality work, quality response times. And yeah, and I think the other thing is you want to double check fees, um, because in Pennsylvania, the only thing that we are required to charge as title agents are the state mandated title insurance fees. But most title companies are padding those fees by adding on, the nickel and dime fees, I like to call them, notary fees, wire transfer fees, settlement charges, whatever it is. And I don't charge any of those because I can't necessarily justify it.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing, because you obviously are buying a house and there's a lot of money that goes into that. And if I'm able to help you buy that house that you want by not charging all of those fees, well, then that's better for you as the client. So that's
I
it.
love it.
Is, what are all your fees? Can I get a
Yeah.
quote?
Yeah. That's so important. People don't ask those types of questions. And really, it's that they don't know. They don't understand how this all works, especially in the title world. And so
Yeah.
being able to be like, hey, like, let me see your fees and let's see if they make sense. Like, explain to me why you're charging me all these. Like, why do you think that's right? But like, being able to have that power and knowledge, I think a lot of, especially like millennials, don't really know what power we do have.
Hmm.
And so, especially in the real estate, because there's so many in the process of real estate, there's so many people has their hands in the process. So they're like, well, where do I fit in? Right? Am I just kind of being pushed in the process. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. And just like you would ask your realtor whenever you're interviewing realtors, well, what is your broker fee? Some broker fees are $1,000, some are 150. And it's the same on the title insurance. Well, what are your fees? Some title insurance agents charge $500 in extra fees, some charge none. And that's just a good question to be asking.
yeah, yeah. No, I love it. I love it. So now that we've been educated on, and we could probably talk a ton more about all this type of stuff, but that's why you need to reach out to her if you have title questions, because we're not going to
Yeah.
be able to cover everything today. So that's why it's important to give you a plug, right?
Yeah.
To get a hold of you. So we do ask a couple just personal financial questions, nothing too personal, but we always want to know what people's thoughts are. One of the questions I always ask people is why is money important to you? So really that's a question of like, hey, what's important to you? Like why are you doing what you do? Why are you trying to make money?
Yeah.
What kind of goals do you have and stuff like that? So I pose that question to you. So why is money important to you?
Yeah. Honestly, the number one thing that comes to mind is generational wealth. My number one goal or my number one priority are my children, and to be able to obviously provide a good life for them in the here and now, but then to also provide generational wealth to my children, so that I can pass it on to them, so that they can pass it on to their children. Um, so that's honestly the number one reason why I like making money. And outside of that, obviously, I love to get my nails done and my hair done, and
Do all those things.
able to do that.
Yes. Yes, you need disposable income to
Yeah.
get to have, you have to have some income left over in order to have those luxuries in life. And so I love that. I'm the same way, passing on generational wealth. It's about building legacy is what I've heard you say,
Yep.
And being able to be, remembered. I think that ultimately most people want to be remembered for something.
Yep.
So we just talked about, why money's important to you. So I guess the last question I have is, we've all, and I'm saying this to everybody that's watching this, that will watch this, that will listen to this, we have all made money mistakes. I have, she has, everybody has, right? And often it comes from lack of knowledge, right? We just didn't know any better, right? We were operating on the knowledge that we had, right?
Yep.
So obviously, like if we could go back in time to change things, we would. But what we can do is we can always do better right now, but we can also put that information onto the next generation. So if you were to go back in time, or if you were to sit down with a younger you, right, what would be some words of wisdom that you would try to instill in a younger you?
I very cliche, but honestly, it's just to start young. As soon as you start earning money, start learning how to manage it, and start young by investing. I feel like 30 years behind, whenever it comes to saving for retirement and saving for, future generations. And I wish that I would have started whenever I was in high school, saving for my future, because, when you're that young, you don't think about the fact that you're going to be retiring at, whatever the retirement age. I don't even know what the retirement age is right now, but you don't think about like when you're going to be retiring. And, that's something that you should be thinking about, even if it's just a small amount each paycheck that you're setting aside for your retirement. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's I'm the same way. If you're watching this, if you have young children, or if you have, even, it's just to start young. And even if you haven't started young, doesn't mean that you just put it off, right? You get started today.
Yeah.
But
Whether that is 15 or whether that's 40, like,
yeah,
started.
Yeah, just get started. I love it. But no, I thank you so much for coming on today. I think this is such an important topic. That's why I wanted you to be on today.
Mhm.
It's a very like you said, behind the scenes topic that a lot of people don't discuss.
Yeah.
But it can really hold up a lot of the process. So with that said, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Mhm.
If they do have title questions, or maybe they just want to know more about the process, right? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, all of my contact information is online on my website, which is pencharterabstract.com. So you can go to my website, and I'm also all over social media: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pen Charter Abstract. And my name is Lelsey Hurst. You can find me again on any social media platform. So,
Yeah.
yep.
Well, that's awesome. And I'll put some of your information in the comment section below. So if somebody wants to reach directly out to you, they can do that. But guys, reach out to her. Like, I promise you, you're going to be taken care of. You're going to have good experience, and she's just going to educate you, and you're going to know exactly what's going on. So make sure you do that. Make sure you take some time to shop around, right? If you are, or take that
Don't
time. So.
yeah.
but but anyways, guys, we really appreciate everybody that jumped on, that commented. Jacob, thanks for jumping on, my friend. But everybody, make sure if you liked today's show, you share it with somebody, especially if they're going through a home buying process right now. Share it with them. They need this education so that they can make better informed decisions. So anyways, guys, we enjoyed it. We'll talk to you soon. Make sure to reach out to her, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.